Welcome to the Running with James podcast. We are committed to helping runners, OCR athletes, and the everyday person get involved, get connected, and get committed to becoming the best versions of themselves. Remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. Now here's your host, James Wyatt.
And welcome back to another edition of Running with James. My name is James Wyatt, owner, operator of BC Fitness, head coach, and your host today on the Running with James podcast. And my lovely co-host today, and coach as well, assistant coach at, she is, let me not say assistant coach because she's going to take that and run with it. She is also a coach at BC Fitness.
I'm an assistant coach and marketing strategist. I gave myself a title.
Do you know what strategist means?
I strategize our marketing plan and our campaigns. So I put them together. I carry them out. I pitch them to you.
So is that what you're doing? Is you're strategizing all the time?
I'm strategizing all the time.
So can we do more marketing and less strategizing?
We do a lot of marketing.
What do you consider marketing?
Well, I do a lot of outreach. So like marketing our campaigns as far as deals we're having. Why am I should not be explaining myself.
Actually, you should.
Not on the air. This is a private business
the owner
meeting.
Of the company. So
but technically your wife is.
Well, technically, my wife doesn't ever talk to you. So when it has to do with business. So technically I am ipso facto.
Ipso facto.
Ipso facto, I'm your boss.
You are my boss.
I'm
that
in charge
is
of
very
all
true.
things. My wife comes to me and she's like, "What are we doing on Saturday?" I'm like, "There's a class, dude. You have an account." Well,
Same thing as always.
I don't know how to use that system.
Same thing every Saturday.
I don't know how to use that system. Well, babe, the only way you're going to learn is if you get into it. You have a login. You have administrative capabilities. You can do whatever you want.
For her name being on the top of all the papers, she doesn't seem to know everything that's going on.
She don't.
Leah, I love you.
She's too busy, like with all the
shaping
other
the
stuff going
minds,
on, right? So she's like, "How much money should I be paying people?" And I was like, "Nothing. Don't pay them anything. As long as they'll keep coming for free, I'm all for it." She's like, "Do you get a check?" No. Actually, I did. This last time she asked me, she's like, "I need to know what to cut checks for." So I gave her the whole list, and my name was on that list because I'm on there.
Wow.
And I didn't get a check.
Oh, she didn't give it to you? Did she put it in her own bank account?
Cut? No, we all have
yours. You have yours.
There's no individual accounts.
She all have your account, but did she go buy something?
No.
I don't know.
What do you mean? She just it stayed in BC Fitness. She's just like, he don't need it.
Yeah.
What is he going to spend it on?
Oh. Y'all got to keep coming, people, so one day we can get James a check.
It'd be awesome if I could get just once. Just like one check would be tight. And I'd put it in, the Wyatt household account. I'm not going to just go out and whatever. I mean,
how offended would you be though if when you go to a casino or something, you gamble and you win 30 cents or something? Uh-huh. If we gave you a check for $1.
The checks cost more than that.
I know.
So no, we wouldn't do that.
It'd be a waste of money.
No, we wouldn't do that. So, but anyway, yes, this is our marketing strategist, a name which she gave herself, by the way. Either way. So if you look on my business card, you know what it says?
Coach. Owner.
I think it just says head coach.
Does it? I thought it said owner or founder. Does it not say
no, that's on there. You're talking about on the website.
On the website, it does say that.
Bios.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the bio, it says that I'm the founder. But yeah, on my thing, it just says head coach. I don't even know if it says head coach.
I want hype girl on my business card next time.
Who are you hyping up?
Everybody except me.
So today,
everybody except
in
me.
our workout, and I don't recall you encouraging me one time.
I actually did, but this is what it sounds like. As I thought about it, I was like, I need to make sure I'm encouraging the boys because I always encourage Jess, but you and Carlos are always doing so well, and you're always killing it. That I'm like, we know y'all are doing awesome.
Just because we're maybe a little faster than you doesn't mean we're doing well. We can be dying inside. Pretty much most of the time, I'm suffering.
I made a point today. I know you probably didn't hear me because of how it was coming out to tell y'all are doing awesome and good work. And
I heard you encourage Carlos. Yes.
No, I said guys. I did say guys because James and Carlos takes a lot of effort when you're dying.
Carlos is an individual. James is an individual.
Oh, right? I said
so
guys.
We need individual support.
I'm sorry.
We're not one localized unit of all men or we're all men are the same. We all need the same. Good job out there, men.
Well, you know what
it encourages every man in the world.
I'm sorry. I'll do better.
Yeah.
But what happened is it either happened on the bike or it happened on the rower. And this is literally how it came out. Good job, guys. You're doing great.
It wasn't on the bike.
Because I was fighting for my life.
I can guarantee it wasn't on the bike. Because you were getting yelled at on both sides.
Trying to
Don't
get
slow
that
down.
slowed down.
It's not a break.
I was trying so hard.
Yeah, you were trying hard.
It was so painful.
Yep, Yep. So, so we had Carlos on the podcast last week. He was a guest host.
He's a guest host.
Guest host. So he wasn't a guest as much as he was a guest that was also hosting. A guest co-host.
He came in and sat like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
You can tell he knows the drill.
Yeah. He told me because I think he was like felt the way I did. Like I didn't know if like that would go over well. Like the
having him there.
No, not him. The subject.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because it's kind of like you get caught in the minutia. It's like really technical. So I was like, I don't know if people are going to like this or not.
Oh, doing his plan. Did you get any feedback on it?
Yeah, so a couple of people said they really liked it. They enjoyed it, so it was very helpful. So, but that was 2 people, right? So, who knows? But he was like, "Yeah, man, I was thinking the same thing." I was like, "But man, I felt like we could have just kept talking for hours." And I was like, "Yeah, I agree. I mean, because we enjoy the company, but we also enjoy the subject.
Yep.
And we he and I sometimes when he's at the gym, we'll just kind of start talking about fitness theory and exercise and workouts and like, different clients, like how do we help this person?
Yep.
Or, he'll ask me a question like, hey, I've got this person like this. What do you think about this? And so we'll kind of like bounce stuff off of each other. And that's always very helpful, I find.
Yeah.
Because you can get different perspectives and different points of view. So, these people are out there. I mean, at least the people I've been watching that are coming to our gym, maybe, on Sundays and stuff, they're training hard.
People are really putting in the work. I think Houston is going to bring out some real showstoppers. I really do. I think Houston's going to bring out a lot of great athletes. I think even like people coming in for like either their first or just even their second race, like still new athletes. I think you're going to see a lot of really great performances out on the arena.
No, I agree 100%. And I think that's one of the challenges though, is like, as you're doing all this stuff, you don't realize, because he said something to this, like we've talked about this before. I'm talking about Carlos and I, but like when you're in the middle of it all the time and it's your daily life, like it becomes like a second nature or.
Yeah, it's not as shiny and new to you. It's just part of your routine.
That. It's more like it seems like secondhand, like just common knowledge.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
To do things a certain way.
Sure.
But then when you get with new people, you get into new groups, you realize it's not actually the common theme, right?
Common knowledge is not that common.
No, it's not. So, and everybody has a different theory on like how to do things. But, one thing I noticed is like, you see these people, they're training really hard, right? And they're putting in the miles, they're hitting the gym, right? Maybe they're not putting the miles, but they're burning the calories, right? They're lifting the weight. But then suddenly like they get this stall of progress, right? So, their paces won't improve, their strength gains have flatlined, and then they start to get a little frustrated.
Yes.
Right. So like, I'm sure for most people that sounds familiar, whether you're a high rocks person, whether you run 5Ks or 10Ks or half marathons, whatever.
We've all been there.
Like you're constantly working towards something and you're doing all this hard effort. And then all of a sudden it just seems like you stall.
Yeah.
And you're not getting any better. And you feel like you're working even harder to not get any better.
Yeah.
Right. So I know it sounds familiar to most people, but why do you think that is sometimes? Why do you think that, what are some of the reasons why people think that happens?
I think, I know on a personal level, for me, like depending on what the goal is I'm working towards, whether it's a high rocks race or like maybe an OCR race or anything, if there's a big gap of time between like the start of that training and like the actual event, I will tend to get like a real burnout where at some point I'm like, I feel like I'm busting my butt, but I'm not seeing progress anymore. I feel like I'm just dying. I'm just tired all the time. I'm hurting. And so I think it's like that long wait period to get to the goal just sometimes drags. And you just kind of want to get to it so you can put all that hard work into like, I guess.
So is that why you do 5 races in 4 weeks?
I think for me, all the other mini races kind of keep me mentally stimulated for things, but I mean sometimes I do like to also use them depending on the event. I do like to use them kind of like to see what my progress.
Gotcha.
But it depends on the event because not all events are great measures for whatever my end goal is.
Gotcha. So I think one of the reasons, that's very possible. I mean, obviously it is because that's one of the reasons you're thinking.
Yeah,
right?
I get burnout.
So burnout is one of them. I think age is another one people use a lot, right? Like, oh, I'm just getting old, I guess.
Tired.
Right?
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Right? So I'm just not as good as I can't be as good as I used to be because I'm just getting old, right? Or injured. I got an injury.
Injury, overuse, overtraining.
Well, most people aren't saying they're overtraining.
Well,
right?
they're not saying it.
Right. Maybe they don't realize it because they're trying to train harder. What else? So age, burnout, injuries. I don't know. What are some other things you've heard of people say, like why they might like not get any better? Oh, I've just reached. This is as good as I'm going to get.
As good as I'm going to get is a big one.
This is my level.
Yeah,
of
this is it. Like, I'm just not going to get any better. A lot of people are just willing to accept, like, where they're at.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people aren't willing to, like, just keep working a little harder or for a little longer to, like, get to that goal.
Well, I think it's because I personally think it's because people get frustrated because they feel like, hey, I'm doing everything I can and I'm not getting anything from it, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm not improving from it.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So that's what so today, guys, that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down some strategies to help you kind of break through those training plateaus and help take your running, your fitness, whatever it is, you're racing to the next level. And so I know for a lot of people, you know, the plateauing thing is it's an inevitable thing, I think, for a lot of people. And I think a lot of that is because of how people train the majority of the time, right? So, you know, we hear age is just a number. But I believe if you train properly, right, if you train smarter and not always harder, then you truly can kind of continue to grow and improve on a consistent basis, right? I don't know. I feel like
I mean, age is real. Age is a thing, but that doesn't mean it's like the end all be all. Like, I know people who are in their 50s and 60s who are killing it. And I know people who are in their 20s who need to, you know, get their life together a little bit in terms of like taking care of themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're younger, you recover faster. You have fewer miles on your body as well, you know, and you have less knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's easy to kind of like do all this extra stuff and do whatever. You just do a little bit of everything, right?
For sure.
And feel like, you know, you're living off of like youth and vitality. And as you get older,
recovery doesn't mean the same thing when you're like in your early 20s.
Right. Whereas if you did it properly, you would benefit so much more and be more fit and last longer. But yeah, I think that's kind of the concept, right? And then I think also for younger folks too, I mean, let's not get it twisted. I mean, you still got maturity. Still got, you know, you don't have as many responsibilities.
For sure.
Right. You're still trying to figure out whatever you're trying to figure out, you know, whatever age bracket that puts you in. But like as we age, you know, you're a little more accountable and consistent. You've had some experiences, and you know that longevity and consistency tends to be, I think, a little more manageable.
Yeah.
Not to say that young people aren't consistent and manageable. I'm just meaning like as you age, I feel like it's a little easier to create that habit if you've done it for an extended period of time.
Yeah, and I think as you age, in any capacity, you learn your body better. Whether it's like how you feed yourself, you fuel your body, your sleep habits, however you do recover, and how you train. Like the older you get, you just kind of have more time in that body doing something, so you learn what works, what doesn't work, what you can handle, and you know how to be smarter about it.
Okay, so with that, then you said burnout is your big deal.
Burnout can be real.
I mean, I mentioned about the whole racing thing and what have you. So, like, do you feel like you know your body now, and you know like your strengths and weaknesses, and you know how to like? Do you feel like you know how to break through the plateaus?
I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a master.
That's not what I asked you.
But I do.
No, it's not what I asked you. I said, do you feel like you know your body?
Better, yeah. Better than my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's constantly a learning. It's still a learning thing, but I know it way better now than I did in my 20s. Way better. Like, I was definitely in the category of, I mean, you knew me then. Like, it would be go to the gym and, like, be at the gym for 4 to 5 hours, just doing every stupid thing I could do, and then eat junk food.
Yeah.
And stay up till 3 a.m. because why not? I'm 23. I can do that.
Okay.
And then wake up at, after 4 hours of sleep and just do it all over again all the time.
Okay.
And I, didn't fuel my body correctly. I was malnourished in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And, I was doing a lot of athletics, but I wasn't taking care of my body the way I should have been taken care of. I could have been, in my opinion, a much better athlete in my 20s.
So here's a question I have. Do you feel like you were evaluating your athleticism, though, in that way? Right? Because you weren't really doing racing and stuff.
I wasn't doing racing. I was doing the Ninja Warrior stuff.
Right.
So I think I was evaluating my body and that, like, how strong I was for those events. Mm-hmm. And for, the local competitions or whatever competitions we would go to, between the show tapings and auditioning for the show. I mean, really, we were like training all year for one show. So that's what I was kind of like basing my performance on. And I did run. I ran then. I didn't run well. Woke up one day and decided, I'm going to go run 12 miles. Not really having, a lot of good experience.
Okay.
So that's just kind of how I did things. And I always like hooked my wagon onto other people. And I just kind of like followed along. If a friend said, I'm going to go run a marathon at Huntsville State Park, I said, okay, let's go. And I did it. And I paid for it for like a week.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay. So like, how would that differ now then? Like, as far as like, so you're more familiar with your tendencies, your strengths and your weaknesses and your recovery. So how do you handle that differently now?
I definitely have gotten to where I try to prioritize sleep more than I did then. Even though my sleep patterns are still not awesome, I definitely put more work into trying to get better sleep. Meals are... That's a funny one.
Why is that funny?
Because I feel like I'm still not fully, I still haven't fully, gotten my nutrition down to, a really perfect level for, what I do. But it is, in my opinion, way better than what it used to be. I've cut out, a lot of the crud, a lot of the junk. And I really try to focus on eating cleaner foods. Ignore my little peanut butter pretzel snack over here.
Okay, so you've got peanut butter pretzel snacks over there next to you, and that's the snack of choice that you keep on your desk as you're working. That you reward yourself.
I reward when I do a task.
When you finish a task, okay.
I do.
So how many of those are you eating a day?
Less than 10. It is less than 10 a day.
Okay,
because I want that jar to last.
You worked out today, so what did you eat after?
I had again, didn't say it was perfect. I had some egg bites. I don't know what that button was.
That was the sad trombone.
You've got the sad soundboard. James
I
got the soundboard.
I was sitting up ready to go.
Oh, I could tell.
Yeah.
I had some egg bites, so some eggs, and I had some
from Starbucks, or you made them yourself.
I didn't have time to make them myself.
Keep going. What else?
I don't want to talk anymore.
No. What else did you eat?
I had some turkey bacon.
I feel like now you're just looking in the sky. And
I'm trying to think because I came home. I had a very limited window.
It was an hour ago, dude.
I know. I had a limited window because I also took a shower. So I had some turkey bacon, egg bites, and a handful of peanut butter pretzels.
A handful? You just said you had a couple.
Well, I have the rest of the handful here, but I've had maybe 4.
So it sounds like you ate breakfast.
I had 4.
It sounds like you ate some breakfast. Did you eat breakfast before you
I
came to
did.
work
I did
out?
have breakfast.
What'd you eat?
I had eggs, turkey bacon, turkey sausage.
Is this the same meal, or is these two different
These
times
are leftovers.
you ate eggs?
They were the leftovers.
How do you make eggs and turkey bacon and have leftovers?
You always make extra so you have them to snack on.
Guaranteed.
I like breakfast food.
I love breakfast too. I'll eat breakfast anytime of the
I'll
day.
say I'll eat eggs all day.
But I'm just wondering how many eggs you made that you had leftovers.
I usually eat 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I'll have 2.
You made 2 or 3 eggs and had leftover eggs?
No, if I'm just having in the morning. But if I'm eating eggs in the morning, I usually have 2 or 3 at breakfast. And so if I make extra, then I save the rest for later.
So how much would extra be? 5? You'd make 5 eggs?
5, yeah.
Okay.
5 eggs. I scramble them.
Do you know how many proteins in one egg?
Isn't it 12 grams?
About 5 grams of protein.
5 grams?
5 grams of protein.
Okay, so you know better than me.
So that means you had 25 grams of protein.
I said it's a work in progress.
2 meals. Yeah, okay. So I'm not doing this to shame you.
You are shaming me.
I'm not shaming you.
You have pushed that button 4 times.
Well,
that is
was
shame
because you're just over here just spouting nonsense or whatever. I could have done the. I don't know if maybe the rim shot would have been any better. But boom. That wasn't a joke, James.
You discovering about that part of the soundboard was probably the worst thing that could happen.
I didn't even use it last week.
I know.
I didn't even use it last week.
Because Carlos was here. You didn't need to.
No, I forgot about it, to be honest with you. That's why. So after a while, as I was listening to this, that would have been perfect.
Did you get a chance to get lunch after the workout? Because you had basically kids come right in.
I had a class right afterwards. So my wife left, and I got her to grab me something. So I didn't get to eat I had a vegan spaghetti I was going to eat or whatever. Was just, I say vegan. It was just red lentil pasta with vegetables and stuff. So, but that would have taken probably about 20 minutes to make. She just grabbed me something. So, so that way I could eat. But I also did have a protein shake.
Yeah.
Because I always have a protein shake afterwards. So I probably had more protein in my one shake than you had all day.
Probably true. That's probably true.
Yeah. Plus I had breakfast.
Yeah.
Plus I had a pre-workout snack. Plus I had a snack between breakfast and the workout. So I'm just saying. But that doesn't mean anything. I'm different. I have more mass than you, right? That's what it is, right? So
I'm still dialing it in, people. I'm
point
working
is-
on it.
The whole point is I think oftentimes, even as people learn their own bodies and
Yes.
they learn how they react, I think I'll still think sometimes people don't do all the things that they could do.
No, for sure. I
or
agree.
should do, right?
Yeah,
That's
no, I
kind of
agree.
the whole point that I'm making. So I think the first thing that you really have to do is you kind of have to evaluate your overall training, your load, your sleep. I think that was a great point that you made.
Yes. I
Your
prioritize
nutrition,
sleep way better now.
right? So those are all going to be things that can limit or hold you back, right? If you're training 10 plus hours a week and you're only sleeping 5 or 6 hours a day, you're not giving your body enough time to recover so that you can go back into those efforts. If you're not fueling your efforts, so if you're burning, 2,500, 3,000 calories or plus a day, but you're only eating less than 2,000 calories, then you're definitely not getting, calories are just energy. You're not getting enough of the nutrients your body needs to perform properly. And then if you participate in something like a vegan style diet, or you participate in something like, a keto style diet, or your low carb, or, whatever it is, and your body's not getting the things that it might necessarily need to perform, because those are traditionally more, what's the word I'm looking for? More like where you take something away, restrictive. There we go. More restrictive diets, then you're going to be challenged. You're going to be tired, or you're going to be more tired, and you're going to struggle a bit. Then if you look at your overall training, well, if you're training 10 plus hours a week, what do those efforts look like? Are they all hard? Are you going hard every day? How much of that is easy? How much of that is aerobic? How much of that is anaerobic? How much of that is threshold? And if you don't participate in, the easier style workouts and learn how to keep that RPE, that rate of perceived effort, lower for the majority of those efforts, then that's another way that you can, basically you're overtraining. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
You may not realize you're overtraining, but in the overtraining, you are holding yourself back.
Yes.
So if you go out and do too much, that can keep you from getting better.
Yes.
It happens all the time. It's
I
crazy.
I feel like we see that a lot. Like a lot of people who come in and they'll just tell you what all workouts they do. James is breaking stuff.
I am. I just knocked over the light. It's
The
okay.
lamp.
Nobody saw it.
Like people come in and tell you how many workouts they do a week.
Yeah.
And what those workouts entail. And I mean, my first question is okay, well, when are you just doing something kind of a chill workout, less weight, less of getting your heart rate escalated,
Yeah.
and all that. And a lot of times they just kind of give you a blank stare.
Yeah. Well, because in a perfect world, harder
Equals
the
better.
the more intensity you do, the better you're going to get.
Yes.
You want to run faster? Run faster. Right? You want to do pull-ups? Do pull-ups.
You just do pull-ups.
Do pull-ups
Just
all
do
the time,
'em.
right?
Even if
So-
you can't do them, do 'em.
If you can't do a push-up, do a bunch of push-ups to
Yep.
get better at them, right? And there is some truth to that, right? We were in class the other day, and I gave them a movement or whatever, and they were like, "What's the modification?"
Oh yeah, you don't do modifications that much.
Yes, I do. I
You
modify
do
everything.
but your modifications.
Don't be over here falsely advertising.
No. You give modifications, but sometimes your modifications still people got because it's either a modification, but they don't feel you have a lot of people who still feel well, I don't feel like that's going to help me, so I
No.
don't want the
Here's what
modification.
happens is I give them the modification, and they don't want to do the modification because they
Yes.
think they're too good for the modification.
Yes, that's true. That's probably that's
Right.
true.
So, but they had asked me, and there was no modification for this one. This one was hard. It was supposed to be hard. And the only way you're going to get better at it is if you are attempting it. And the
Yes.
more you attempt it, the better you're going to get.
Yes.
And I was like, there's no modification. Just do it. And they just kind of looked at me like, huh? I was like, whatever. If I gave you a modification, you wouldn't do that either, right?
No.
So, stay off your knees when you're doing push-ups. Go to the box. Go higher. Be in an elevated position. And I turn around, and everybody's on their knees. I'm like, I just literally said, get off your knees because I want you to engage your core.
Well, it's even when I saw the people who did go to the box or something, there was a lot of sagging through the
through the
spine,
back. Yeah.
through the
and
back.
that's what you're trying to learn how to engage
Yeah.
your core, which will ultimately help you get stronger
Yeah.
in your push-up, right? So,
Yeah.
But I think those are the things, right? Is kind of getting over the pride of it all and the competition of the Strava competition, right? Or
Oh, yeah.
the glory miles or the vanity runs, really
Yes.
is what they're called, the vanity workouts, where you're comparing yourself to what everybody. If you're faster than me Monday through Sunday, but I'm faster than you on race day, does that make a lot of sense?
Yeah.
That makes absolutely no sense.
The math ain't mathin'.
It doesn't.
The
math,
Strava ain't
right?
Straving.
So if you're better than me 7 days a week in your training, and you're not better than me on race day, then you're doing something.
Yeah.
I would think that means you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Because how am I not able to keep up with you during the week, but then on the day of the race, I'm smoking you?
I've definitely over the last several years, like learned to appreciate the zone 2 works and the just slowing it down, especially like on runs. And I've gotten to where I really do enjoy now, even if they take longer. I'm like, I like a nice, easy run. I like a nice chill pace. I like just moseying along. This is nice because I was like saying it today. I was like, I don't like being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a
time and a place.
Right?
Yes.
But I think the first thing you have to do is evaluate your training, what you're doing, evaluate your sleep, evaluate your nutrition. And from that evaluation, usually you can kind of see a trend.
Mm-hmm.
And that trend usually is you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating enough, and you're training too much
Mm-hmm.
or you're training too hard. And if you just take a step back from that and you say, okay, well, how can I adjust this to change things up a little bit? Well, number one, get some more sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, eat better or eat more food.
Yes.
Not
Not
and
just
then
egg bites.
Number three, be more specific in your training. I think
Yeah.
training specificity would help everybody significantly.
Like really write down like what you're doing.
Right. Come up with some kind of plan.
Come up with something.
Come up with some kind of plan where, okay, if I'm going to do something hard today, well, I don't need to do something hard tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do a recovery style effort. It doesn't mean I don't do anything. But what it means is I go much more lower intensity to allow my body the time to rest and recover. And then the next day I could go a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So not having those back-to-back really hard efforts.
How would you, because I've actually had I've said that to somebody and they made like an excuse. I don't know if it's an excuse, so maybe you can like debunk this for me. They're like, well, Monday I do lower body and it's just like a really intense, like 2-hour lower body session. But Tuesday I do upper body. So it's a really intense upper body session, but they're still 2 intense sessions.
Yep.
Technically back to back, but they're targeting 2 different zones of the body. That's still hard effort.
I mean, when was the last time you did a workout on your legs?
And it just affected your legs.
And you were only tired in just your legs.
Yeah.
Right? Your whole body gets tired because your heart has to pump the blood to create the energy, right, in your muscles so they can do the activity.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of your body is still working, even though your legs are maybe taking the brunt of it. Your body's still moving. So you're probably, I'm not saying you can't do that, but you're probably not going to be able to work out as hard as you think you're working out. Mm-hmm. So here's what I think happens. You do a hard workout today.
Yep.
Tomorrow you go do a hard workout, but it's not actually a hard workout. It just feels hard because you're so fatigued. And so one thing you can do to kind of like test that to see how fatigued you are is look at your resting heart rate. If you do a hard workout today and tomorrow, and let's say your resting heart rate usually, and the great thing about like all these watches, it gives you an average of your average heart rate, your resting heart rate. And let's say your resting heart rate usually is 57 beats per minute.
Okay.
All right, that's fairly low. That's a good resting heart rate. Mm-hmm. So it's below like 60 and above is kind of like normal. Okay. So if you're 55 or so, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Well, let's say it's usually around 55, 57 beats per minute. And then you wake up the next morning at 65, 70 beats per minute. That's a telltale sign right there. Your body's fatigued.
Yeah.
You're tired because your heart is already having to work so hard just to do normal,
just to do your everyday things.
stuff. And so
just
if you go and work out, you're going to feel more fatigued.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. People tell me on their runs all the time, they'll say, oh, especially this is when I really see it, right? When they struggle the most on like keeping the low zone 2 or the low intensity runs is the day after a hard effort. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, man, I could not get my heart rate to come down, but they're still trying to run the same pace they usually run.
Yeah. They
usually run a 9:30, 10-minute pace. They do a hard effort. The next day they try to run a 9:30, 10-minute pace and their heart rate won't go down. Mm-hmm. And so I have to remind them you don't mentally tell your heart to go down, your heart rate to go down.
Yeah.
Your heart rate responds based off of your current fitness level and your body's need and fatigue level. And so if your heart rate is elevated, at the effort, then you need to decrease the effort
Yes.
so that the heart rate goes back down.
Slow
so
it down.
those are kind of some ways that you can test to see, am I actually fatigued? Am I trying to do too much too quickly? And so one way you can monitor that is if you get up in the morning and your resting heart rate's a little higher than usual, take that day to recover and relax. And then tomorrow, if your heart rate goes back down to normal and it's in the 50s again,
Great.
then okay, if you want to go hard again, go for it.
But do some mobility in the meantime.
Yeah, so
Do a
do
little
some
stretching,
some
little
sort of, and
walk.
there's active recovery stuff that definitely can benefit you.
Go for a little bike ride. Do a little walk.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, like I used to bike all the time. I used to mountain bike a lot, like a ton. And then after I ruptured my Achilles, I road biked a lot. So I got
I
a
love
road
road
bike.
biking.
And it was a way for me to kind of start getting moving and build some fitness and stuff. But I've incorporated riding again into my weekly basis. So I'm riding like maybe
Yeah, you
3
do a
times
lot.
a week. And I feel like it really helps because it's a very low effort.
Very
like
low
a
effort.
Super low effort. And my legs usually feel better afterwards. But like on, I think Wednesday nights, I'll ride the bike for like 45 minutes and then I'll go do like a 4-mile run.
Yeah.
So, but when I'm done, because the run's pretty easy too.
Yeah.
But when I'm all said and done, I've done an equivalent of like doing 8 miles of running in a day, but I don't feel like I did an 8-mile run. It feels very chill and very easy, but I'm getting the same aerobic benefit.
Yeah.
And so the next day I go and do a hard day. And I'm able to do it, even though on Tuesday my legs felt super hard, heavy, and tired.
Yeah.
By Thursday, I'm feeling better
feel
and I'm
normal.
ready to go, right? So it's thinking about your training as a whole rather than, okay, what am I going to do today, Pinky?
Yeah.
Right? How am I going to handle this today? And I'm taking over the world by doing it all. So understanding like your workout should really have a rhyme and a reason to it.
Yes.
And not just throw stuff at the dartboard and just hope it kind of comes out.
Hope it hits close to the bullseye.
And I think that's why most people do plateau.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think a lot of people we talk to who aren't working with a team or a coach, or even if like you're not working with a coach, if you're working with a group that maybe has like something they're doing kind of together, a lot of people are just like showing up at the gym and just like doing whatever.
Right.
As long as they leave sweating and tired, they did a good job.
They did a good job, right?
That's
and
all.
there's a benefit to that for sure.
Sure.
I'm not saying that doesn't help you.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing specific training, then you can't go somewhere specific.
Yes.
So if you're on a racetrack and you're going around in circles, where are you going? Nowhere. You're just going around in circles.
Real bored, real fast.
But if you get out on the road and you start going a certain direction, you're going wherever you're going.
Yeah.
And so in training, that's what people do. They tend to like do the same exact thing over and
It's
over and over
familiar.
and over and over again because it's what they know. It's
We're
what they're
creatures
familiar
of
with.
habit.
And they keep going around in circles and they don't understand why they're not going anywhere.
Exactly.
And so what we have to do is we have to understand that and we have to know that's where I'm going. I'm trying to get to the top of that mountain. So I need to get out off of my loop and I need to start heading toward that mountaintop. So, we always use this example, or I always use this example, is that number one, you always start with building your foundation.
Yes.
You cannot go to the mountaintop if you don't have a great, strong foundation.
Or it's going to be really hard to get there. I mean, you might be able to get there, but it's not going to feel good.
Well, it's not going to be as high.
Yeah.
So your peak can only be as high as your foundation.
Yes.
So the top of the building can only be as tall as whatever foundation that can support it. And a lot of people they have this very small foundation and they spend all their time working on the second and third floor. And then all of a sudden they can't go any higher than the third floor because they haven't built a strong enough foundation to support the next levels. And so you have to constantly be working on that foundation.
Yes.
Keep building the foundation. So I believe the foundation is really built upon, number one, aerobic capacity.
Yep.
So your heart's ability to process oxygen. Number two is mobility. So your body's ability to move, specifically with your shoulder, your ankles, your hips. So what kind of joint mobility do you have?
Yep.
Flexibility. So in other words, how elastic are your muscles? What kind of stretch can you put on them to allow the load to come?
Yep.
And then strength.
Yeah.
And so those are 4 specific things I feel like that you should always be working on. And if you're always working on those things, well, then when you add in the higher intensity stuff, when you're trying to add more weight, well, if you have a hip problem, and I say hip problem, if your hips are not very mobile,
Yeah.
and whenever you try to do a squat, you do more of a hip hinge, well, there's only so much weight you're going to be able to lift
Yeah.
before you end up hurting yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Start feeling your back, all sorts
Or
of
wherever.
issues.
Same
Yeah.
thing with a deadlift.
Same thing with a deadlift.
If you don't kind of get the motion the proper motion, or you don't get a safer motion, it doesn't matter how much weight you put on that bar. If you can't lift it without hurting yourself, it's too heavy.
Yes.
So working on that stuff allows you the ability to increase whatever the weight is, so that then you have the ability to improve the strength.
Yes.
So if you don't have that range of motion foundation, then it doesn't matter how often you go to the gym, you're not going to get any stronger than what your mobility and your flexibility and your foundation of strength can handle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think another thing, kind of like going off of what you just said about like working on those 4 major things, another thing that causes people to plateau is not having variety in their training.
Yep.
Like lack of variety, lack of spice. So I know people who, when they train, they might kind of throw a little cardio in every once in a blue moon, but really they're like, I'm working on just the strength stuff. I'm working on just lifting the weights or just these very specific movements. That is it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fun. That's sexy. Sure. You can like, deadlift this weight, or maybe you can like, do this many like lunges and you're fine, but you don't have any of the aerobic capacity to like be able to put it all together and maintain it for a while. So I think that can also lead to burnout, because it just, also, to me, it can get really boring if you're not switching it up.
Yeah.
I love a good weight session, but doing nothing but weights all the time, I'm just like, it's not as exciting sometimes. Sometimes it's fun to like have like something a little different in your schedule.
Yeah.
It's like one day you work really good on the weights. One day you do, your run. Maybe you do the biking. Stuff that kind of like not only is challenging your body in different ways, but challenging your mind.
Right. Well, you're breaking up the monotony of it all as well. But I mean, I think definitely the cross training is helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely the cross training is helpful. And I think part of the times when people plateau is because they get caught into the trap of they're doing, back and buys on Monday, chest and tries on Tuesday. They're doing legs on Wednesday, and then Thursday is a cardio day. So they get on the Stairmaster for 4 hours or something crazy like that, right?
Ugh,
and, to them, that's variety.
Yeah.
Because they're doing different muscle groups.
Yes.
But those are all the same workout, honestly, because you're training the same energy system, and the focus of each one of those exercises is the same.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about cross training, or we're talking about, variations in training, we're talking about you need to, I actually was watching this guy the other day on YouTube, and he was talking about what's better, zone 2 training, VO2 max training, or say strength training or what have you. And he was talking about how the benefits of all 3 of them, but they never really compared like what was better.
Yeah.
And so he kind of went through this whole thing, and ultimately he came to, the determination that they're all beneficial and you need all 3 of them. And there was, I guess, a study that was done that said that in your training, specifically, like if you're trying to increase your VO2 max, and your VO2 max base is just the amount of the volume of oxygen your body can process.
Yes.
And that has to do with your overall, it's not the be all end all, but it's a really good signifier of your fitness level. And so if you want to increase that, then you want to do exercises or movements that are high intensity, and then for short periods of time, and then you rest and you do it again. So they like one is like a 4-to-4 ratio. So like 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off, or 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
So however many minutes on, you take the same minutes off, right? But you're going at a high intensity. And what this study was saying was that you like to really increase your VO2 max. One of the things you need to do is at least twice a month, but preferably once a week, you need to get your heart rate at your maximum level.
Okay.
So you need to get your heart up into your max heart rate. So that's anaerobic. That's red.
Yep. That's where I was today.
At least once a week, or at the bare minimum, at the least twice a month, but ultimately once a week. And so when you think about that, that's not something you can sustain for an extended period of time, right? Those are short workouts.
Yeah.
But when you think about that, what they're talking about basically is progressive overload.
Yes.
What you're doing is you're taking your heart, because your heart is a muscle, up to a place that it's been, that it can go, and then you give it a time to rest and relax and recover, and then you try to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's how you increase your VO2 max and your max heart rate.
Yes.
And so that was a very beneficial thing. Well, another thing that helps increase your VO2 max, because remember, VO2 max stands for the volume of oxygen your body can produce.
Yes.
Well, the only way your heart's going to truly get better at producing oxygen is if you're doing aerobic, low intensity steady state training for extended periods of time so that your heart gets more efficient at processing oxygen, and you get to your body creates more, your favorite word, starts with an M. What is it? Don't leave me hanging.
Now that I'm on the pressure on my brain's not working.
You and Rocky were always talking about the
mitochondria.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
The mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell.
There you go.
Biology has not failed me.
Hold on. Oh. There we go.
Is that the want?
Yes. So I should have done it sooner.
that was a delay.
I failed
Delayed.
miserably. I failed miserably. Let's see. How can I get one? I'll give myself crickets for that one. All right. So see, I'm a fair and evil button pusher over here.
There we go.
All right. So I said evil, but I meant even. But if you have more red blood cells, if you have more transport systems for oxygen, well, then that means you're going to be able to have a higher volume of oxygen.
Yes.
So both of those things are very important, whereas you need to get your max heart rate at least once a week. Well, the VO2 max training only happens if you do it oftentimes for long durations of time at a steady state throughout the week.
Yes.
So what does that sound like to you?
Easy running, zone 2 running.
Or just ultimately it sounds like a lot of easy.
A lot of easy, not a lot of hard.
There it is. Okay. And that's like, he didn't even say those words.
Yeah.
But the study shows that exact same thing.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to note that all of these things are very important in the variability in the training, but you need to be specific in that variability.
Yes.
So yes, you should program some really hard workouts into your week.
Yes.
But then you should also make sure that you have plenty of easy efforts to accommodate and allow your body the ability to do the really hard efforts.
So for anybody listening that maybe they're still kind of new to a bunch of this, they're like fine tuning their skills. When we say like easy, long efforts, so let's say we're talking about anything like running, because we deal with a lot of runners. If you have someone who's coming new to the game, you wouldn't suggest, okay, well, you need to do an easy, long effort. Go out for an hour and run. You've never run more than 3 miles in your life.
Basically, an aerobic effort or a cardiovascular effort would be anything that's 30 minutes and above, up to like, say, 2, 3, 4 hours.
Yeah.
But you don't want to start at that
start at 2,
higher
3, 4
side
hours.
because your body hasn't adapted to it. You're not ready for it. So you simply start with what you can handle.
Yep.
So if that's 30 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week, then that's what you start with.
Yep.
And then you increase each week just a little bit. So usually we say 10%.
Yeah. And again, paying attention to your heart rate. Easy.
Correct. Or the effort level. So maybe you don't have a watch, right? Maybe you don't have a thing that monitors your heart rate. So just monitor your effort. So how are you feeling?
Yes.
So if you looked at a RPE, rate of perceived effort, it would be something like a 6. Okay, a 5 or a 6. I would say to play it safe, do a 4.
Yeah.
So it's going to feel like you're wasting your time.
Especially if you're easing into it, I would say 4 is a great
It's going to be the
place
best way to
start.
do it. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking. They'd come to OCR class, the first OCR class they'd ever been to, and they were so proud of themselves. They're like, "Hey, I ran a lap," and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." I was like, "We've got like a bunch more to run though, because we were running laps.
Yeah,
between
we were doing between sets,
all the movements, right?" And it's like, "Yeah, no, I just did 1.5.
Just the one, I'm good."
I did the one. I was like, "I'm out of breath," and I was like, "Well, you're running too fast, and you need to slow down." You say that I always hear you saying that. You can't run without breathing heavy. I was like, well, I do it every day.
Yeah.
So if you're running and you're out of breath, it probably just means you're running too fast. So just slow down a little bit. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Because everything they do is fast paced.
It's funny because I think I know who this is.
Yeah. Everything they do is fast paced.
Yeah.
So like they're in the gym, in between sets, they're walking around. Because they have this mindset, I think, that they have to keep their heart rate up. Right? It's like the old school guy. You can tell people who don't run because they'll get to a stoplight and they're still running in place.
Yes.
Right? Got to keep that heart rate
Gotta
elevated.
keep that heart rate up. And like,
keep that heart rate
not
up.
me. I'm standing there. I'm stretching out my quads.
Yeah. When I get to the stoplight and I'm waiting, I'm
waiting.
stopped.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm taking that as a stretch session.
Hands on the knees.
Deep
I
breath.
might sit down. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for every excuse I can to stop.
Yeah.
So-
I'm like, oh, it turned darn.
I know. I feel
Slow
so
down.
bad for some of those guys that are newer to running with us, like on Saturdays, especially when we're in the longer miles, because we stop so much. We stop at the mile 3 to go to the bathroom. We stop back at the
You
truck
can tell
to
people
get
get
some
antsy.
more water. Yeah. We stop to exchange, take the shirt off. We stop to fill the water bottles back up. We're like, oh, hey, there's a dog. We're stopping. We're looking for every excuse we can to stop. And I can tell there are some people who are like, I'm trying to get this run over with. And I'm just like, my mindset is simply this. I'm getting these miles in. I'm getting this time in. I'm trying to enjoy it. I'm not going to rush, because when you get into a rush, you tend to fall into the trap of going too fast.
Yes.
So I just let's just relax. Let's
just block
enjoy
off
it.
your time, people.
Y'all made me
before
get
you
here at
get
6 o'clock in the morning.
Ugh.
We're going to be done and still have the whole day.
I thought we were going back to 7 a.m. I was excited, and then y'all kept saying 6.
Well, some of us are running like
Wait,
in the double
13s,
digits.
I know.
Right? So if we don't want to be done, I have to be up here before 10. So I got to be done, and I have to have time to eat breakfast, take a shower, and come back up here.
No.
So I can't do that in 20 minutes.
No.
So, but having variability in your training week will be very, very important. And if you would do it, I cannot tell you how many I'm training a young lady right now. She's had a coach before. Okay. And in fact, she had a coach when her and I spoke.
Okay.
And when we were talking, she sounded like she was doing the things that I would have her do.
Sure.
So doing easy running,
Okay.
She knew the RPE thing. We talked about heart rate stuff.
So she had a base knowledge of what was going on.
And she was fast. She wasn't
Yeah.
like she was slow or anything like that. And she had a coach.
Okay.
Okay. So then
She's cheating on her coach with you.
no, she's not cheating, because I told her, I was like, listen, and I told Carlos this the other day. I don't know if I can have people anymore that have I can't do this.
My coach said this. Well, this coach said that.
Not that, the whole open relationship.
Oh.
I have to have full-on commitment. I don't know about it's too hard when you have all these voices.
Gym polyamory.
Yes.
Gym polyamory. We were not.
It's just,
we're
can't-
more traditional here.
Yes, we are very traditional, and I need monogamy in my coaching
I
relationship.
need coach-client monogamy.
Exactly. But she was, when I was talking to her, I mentioned that, and she's like, because we were mainly going to be training for not running, but high rocks.
Okay.
And this was her running coach. And I was like, well, running is a big part of high rocks. And so
Yes.
that's something I'm going to be, giving you instructions on and stuff. So I guess I sold her on how I spoke. And she was like, okay, while I'm with you, I'm going to let my other coach go. Okay. And so I was like, that was a huge sigh of relief, because that's just one thing I don't have to try to work around,
Yes.
So it's hard enough to work with people sometimes, with their own ideas of how things should be, but when you got their ideas and then some other person that you don't know their philosophies and stuff, it makes it challenging.
You wrecking relationships.
I'm over here. I'm a home wrecker.
You are a gym wrecker.
And so we started training and what have you. And I think in the beginning, some of the stuff I gave her, she was like, this is too easy. This is not hard enough. This is whatever, and what I was just really trying to drive home was the concept that it's okay to be easy, and we're going to get better by getting this higher volume
Yes.
and going easy, and you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
And when you feel better, you're going to perform better.
And when you get to the really hard stuff, you're going to wish it was the easy stuff
Right.
again. That's
So-
always what happens.
So we spent the first 3 months, really. I mean, we did speed work and stuff, but it was a whole new experience for her, because the paces I was having her run were different paces than her other coach had to run on all things. They were slower on the easy stuff, and they were faster on the hard stuff.
Ooh.
So the deal was I was making her run, and based off of what she ran easy is what I set for her speed work, right? So that's how I determined what her pace should have been.
Yeah.
And so, and they were paces she hadn't really ran before. They were some hard sets, and she was like, she did really well. I mean, she's done everything I've asked her to do. She's done a good job. I mean, she's had some struggles here and there, but if you're not struggling, you're not being challenged.
Yeah.
Right. And so, what has been crazy though is to see her progression in just the last 4 months.
Yeah.
So she had actually even said the words that she had put a cap on a number she could run for a race as far as a time.
Oh, a time. Okay.
I've always, because I asked her, I was like, well, what is your ultimate goal? Well, I'd like to do this time. I was like, okay, so is that once you get there, you're happy? She's like, well, ultimately, I really would, I always had a dream of running this pace.
Okay.
And
This
based
was
off
in a high rocks or in like a
marathon.
marathon.
Half marathon,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And just talking to her, I was like, oh yeah, you can do that. We got that. You haven't even scratched the surface. You haven't even there's so much more efforts and different things you can do to help take yourself to the next level. That is definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe me mentioning that maybe encouraged her a little bit. But then as we're training, I mean, she's killing it. She's doing really well, and she's feeling good. She says she enjoys the training. And so I have seen her only improve. And she's in her 40s.
Yeah.
I think she's 39, 40, something like that. So it's not like she's 22 years old.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing is the progression, but it's because now I'm forcing her, and I say forcing her loosely, but I'm forcing her to be very specific in her training. She's doing certain efforts, certain parts of the day or parts of the week, and then a couple of times a week, she's going super duper hard.
Yeah.
And so I think this past week, she went to do one of her hard efforts because it's peak week.
Yep.
And she was like, I struggled so hard. It was so hard. My legs feel so heavy. I feel so tired. I was like, well, it is the third week of the training block. Your body's probably fatigued and tired. It's cold outside. You got all these other things going for you. What is your sleep like? We talked about all that stuff. And what is your resting heart rate like? Stuff like that. And after a couple days, she went and did a run. And she's like, oh, I feel so much better now. I think you were right. And I was like, yeah, I know. It happens all the time. So just listen to me. And so this week is recovery week. And all of a sudden, she's crushing her workout because her body's feeling better.
Yes.
And so that is the beauty of having the specificity in training, having the variable efforts from easy to hard, and making sure you're putting in the right type of training and not just doing a bunch of training.
Yes.
So I think if more people would focus on their training in that aspect, you would see so much more improvement. You know, I could count down the list of people. Carlos, perfect example. When I started coaching him, he was already in his 40s. Mm-hmm. You know, he was just trying to become a little bit better. He wanted to get better at obstacle course racing.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever told me one of his goals was to get a podium or be a top 5 finish.
Yeah.
That never even I don't even think it ever entered his mind. He just wanted to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
But as he progressed, as he got better, his goals started to change because I believe his mindset started to change and his confidence in what he was capable of doing started to change.
For sure.
And then his desires and his overall expectations changed because he started to believe in himself, right? I'm going to use another
And now he's
example.
an unstoppable force.
Yes, his partner Joyce. When Joyce and I first started working out together and stuff like that, you know, I think that was her idea. She started coming to OCR class. She wanted to do OCR, you know, she wanted to go over walls and climb ropes and do push-ups and all the other stuff, right? And she was all new to her, but she jumped into it like without fear, which is really hard. Most people don't do that.
Yeah.
Most people are scared of OCR, but she was excited about it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I don't really think she ever had the idea of winning races or being in the, you know, the top echelon or what have you. And now that's all she plans on.
Yeah.
Is world championship this and podium spot this.
Yeah.
And so her mindset has changed because her expectations have changed because of her improvement. And as she improves, as she gets better, she gets hungry for more, right? And I think that's how most of us are.
Yes.
And so when we plateau all the time, it becomes very frustrating because we may have this expectation and we're not able to maintain whatever that level is.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden we're like, you know what? I guess I'll never be any better.
I guess this is it.
This is it. This is good as I'm
Might as well die now.
I'm
Take
old.
this horse out to pasture.
I'm old now. Put me out. Just shoot me. Just shoot me now, right?
I have nothing to live for.
Yeah, right. So I think that's the key, is just understanding that it is definitely one of those things where, you know, having specificity in your training, hitting the different energy systems, but ultimately changing your mindset.
Yeah.
And setting yourself up for success, and kind of taking out that need for being motivated, and understand that if you trust the process, if you create the plan and you follow the plan, then the good stuff comes.
Yes.
The good stuff comes, right? So I was talking to somebody, was it this morning? I think this morning. I was checking on them, see how they were doing. And, you know, they responded, oh, thanks for checking on me, da-da-da-da-da. And they told me a couple things, and then they said, oh, I'm a little concerned about this. And I was like, listen, you're going to do great. You've been very consistent. You've been working really, really hard. I know it's natural. It's something new for you, and you're going to be a little nervous, or a lot nervous, for this event. But you're going to do great. And the reason I know that is because you're doing the things necessary to perform well.
Yes.
And so as long as you're consistent and you set the expectations realistically,
yes, that's a big part of it.
Being realistic in your expectations based off of your training and the events that the sessions you've done, then you can go into that event and it can be a reward and a celebration, and you can really enjoy yourself. And then guess what? It's not over. you're just starting.
It's just one more event.
Yeah.
It's just you got a whole other life after the event.
You go back to the drawing board and you say, you know what? Let's see if I can improve a little bit.
Yeah.
And you keep that cycle over and over again, and you keep improving, and you get better, and you have fun, and you enjoy it, and you create all these great friendships, and you challenge each other, and it just gets better and better. And plateau never even enters the vocabulary.
Nope.
Right? So I don't live from plateau to plateau, right? That's just not how I roll. I do believe that plateaus are a normal part of a lot of people's trainings, but I think that's people who are maybe not training like as properly as they could.
Okay.
Because I feel like well into your 50s and 60s, I believe you can still improve in several different forms of strength or physicality, because you may never be as good as you could have been, but you can always be better than you've ever been, based on how you build volume and how you put your training to the test, right? So I know for a fact I could go out and in 3 months I could go out and run a half marathon PR without a doubt. I could probably take at least a minute off my half marathon time. Mm-hmm. But I also know I'm probably going to need to run like 50 to 60 miles a week. I'm going to need to do those threshold efforts. I'm going to need to focus a little more on my running. But if I do that and get my cardio aerobic base up, easily could do that. Mm-hmm. So the question is, do I want to do that?
Or am I going to put the work in?
Am I willing to put the work in, right? So I think sometimes, and that's kind of the mindset setting, so the mindset place is what are you willing to do? Yeah. What are you capable of doing based off your schedule?
I would say, because it usually also requires sacrifices. What am I willing to sacrifice to make this a priority?
Exactly. So, but that doesn't mean I couldn't go out and get, a 10-second PR. Or a 30-second PR.
1 second's a PR.
It is. Anything faster is a PR. I got a PR in Houston, right? And I was not ready. I think I only raced.
Everyone was looking a little hurt.
It was so cold.
It was so cold. It was so cold.
Yeah, it was cold. But what that tells me, though, is and that's one of the great things about this whole thing is your consistency is the most important thing.
Yes.
Right? So, I got a PR. It was a small PR, what have you, but I hadn't ran a half marathon in 2 years. Mm-hmm. I haven't been training for a half marathon in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And my mileage hasn't been anywhere near where I would want it to be to train for a half marathon.
Yeah.
So I did I think it was like a 6-week build or an 8-week build to get up to this half marathon. And I think I peaked at 40 miles, which is more mileage than probably most people would run to peak at, right? But even with that, I would have wanted to peak like much higher than that.
Yeah.
To really get a good whatever. So,
well, because I think a lot of times the goal should not be to just, a lot of people say, well, I just want to go and like have the PR, or I want to finish the event. And I know from me, and I think you also kind of preach this for yourself, I want to do the event or PR, but I want to do it well and not be dying necessarily, like not be in extreme pain or like be injured or be hurt more than like just feeling fatigued.
Yeah, but what's funny is when that happens, because I've coached a lot of people and put them in that place, and they're like, oh my God, I could have gone faster. Yeah, I wish I'd have started faster, something like that. And I was like, well, the reason you felt good at the end is because you held yourself back and you stuck to the plan.
Yeah.
So you got a PR and you felt great. That was the point.
Yeah, you don't want to like be crippled.
Yeah,
after
the point shouldn't be to feel like your death warmed over, right?
Yeah.
So I promise you, it was a hard effort.
Yeah.
So I think Jess was like that. She got her great PR, finished 127 or something like that, right? Yeah. And I was like, so how do you feel? She's like, oh, I feel great. I'm not even tired. I wasn't sore the next day.
Yeah, she was bouncing.
Yeah, she was like, and some of that, I think she was just high off PRs or whatever, because she just keeps getting them. But then for the next 2 weeks, she's just complaining about how tired she is. And she's like, oh, my legs are so heavy. Oh, my God. And I was like, you do remember you just did a really hard half marathon, right? She's like, oh, yeah. So your body's going to feel that, right? You're going to still, even though maybe mentally you're like, I got this, it's going to wear on you. It's going to take a little time to recover. So even something like that is a perfect example of what consistent hard efforts will do, is that eventually they wear you down.
Yes.
And they will play a factor in your overall performance. So when we're thinking about that, like say in preparing for an event, that's why we taper.
That's
why we recover. So
we can feel fresh.
You lower volume, you lower fatigue, and you get another bump in fitness.
Yes.
And I think that that is a thing that a lot of people don't realize. Remember how I used to be for American Ninja Warrior?
Oh, yeah. You just go hard all the time.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's the week of the race. We got to put in some really hard efforts.
I got to get at the gym. I got to get a pump in my shoulders.
Yeah.
I got to make sure my grip is like
I got to make
rough.
sure I rip some new holes in my hands so that I'm perfectly prepared for this event. And that is the last thing you should have been doing, right? So, I mean,
we were young and dumb.
I didn't do that. I never
did
did
that.
But I do remember the week of, like 2 days before we were supposed to go to Vegas for the for the finals. I do remember Sam had us in there, and we were like, it was like a 3-hour training session or what have you, and I was just gassed. I was so beat up. I don't know how many times he made us climb that rope or what have you.
Oh,
I was
the
just
rope.
like just so dead. And now I'm thinking, I look back and I'm like, dude, I could have probably done so much better had I not like destroyed myself 2 days before this competition, you know? And so live and learn.
Live and learn.
You learn, you get better at these types of things. And so, you know, I think one of the way my athlete says it's the magic of the taper.
Yeah.
It's the magic of the taper. You do it. You hate doing it. You think it's wasting your time, but then race day comes and you feel amazing.
You feel great.
Yeah. I can't tell you, like, I think it was like a couple months ago, what have you. You know, I did a workout. I was doing I was building my volume. You know, I was feeling okay, but I was a little fatigued, and I did a workout, and I barely made it through that. It was like a speed effort, a threshold effort. I barely made it through that thing. And then, like 2 days later, because you know how the weather's been just
up and down
everywhere.
It's
right?
annoying.
So I got sick. And so I had 2 days, and I was planning on running and doing them, and I didn't do them because didn't want to get any sicker than I was.
Yeah. I didn't want to push your body more.
Right. So I took a couple days where I really didn't do much of anything. I rode the bike. I think that's about all I did. I didn't do the Sunday Fun Day workout or whatever, the High Rocks Run Club. And then Monday came, I did my normal workout. Tuesday came, and I went to go do my run again. And so I'm thinking to myself, oh, man, I haven't been working out. I suck. Life sucks.
This is going to be
This is
awful.
going to be so horrible. And I went out there, and that workout, I ran faster.
Felt
It was
good.
a longer effort because it was like peak week,
Yeah.
and it felt so much easier.
Yeah.
And you know why?
Your body rested.
Because my body wasn't tired.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
Rest is good, people.
Rest is good. So, you know, you got to have the right balance, obviously,
Yeah.
but allowing your body that adaptation time and that recovery time will play huge dividends in keeping you from plateauing.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Take the rest. Make a plan. Spice it up.
How about make a plan, stick to the plan?
Stick to the plan. Don't go willy-nilly. No willies in the nilly.
Okay, let's calm. Oh, my God. I'm going to have to cut that out.
Willies.
I'm going to have to cut that out. Oh,
I'll
my
say, what's the button?
God. No, there is no willy button. There is no
I want a
willy
willy button.
Actually, this button right here, if you see one, guys, be scared.
Willy-nilly.
Yeah, if you see a willy-nillian, I don't even
Did you
know.
do the dun, dun, dun?
No, I don't even think we have that button.
Oh, you'll need that button.
That would be a good button.
That'd be a good one to add in.
So, yeah, I don't know. I saw something the other day. This is a family show. I shouldn't be bringing up
You
willies.
should bring it up.
I shouldn't be bringing
We're
up
adults.
willies.
We're all adults.
No,
I guarantee you no one under the age of 18 is listening to this show.
There was this dude. You've seen him with
Sure.
his britches.
With the tight pants? The Uzi guy?
Yes.
Yes.
With his tight freaking britches.
Pretty sure those are padded.
And are you sure?
They might not be, but I'm
I
like,
think
dude,
that's real. I think
that
that
is
tail end is
a
real.
round peach.
It is, but that's what his thing is,
It is
right?
his thing.
But what I think is hilarious
He's
is he's
so-
just doing what all these other women are doing all the time.
Well, that's the joke. The whole joke of it.
and
is
I don't
kinda
even know
like
if it's a joke. I think
it
he's being
is.
serious for followers.
I do think it's clickbait.
I think he's using the strategy that a lot of women are using to get the
because
same.
he knows that men are staring. Because like, what the heck? And women are like, is that real?
Women are excited about life, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to get a butt like that."
Like
right?
this guy's is like the pants. What
Yeah.
is it?
But here's what the funny part is that it came up on my thing, and I think it came up on my feed because I'd seen it and I'd sent it
Okay.
to the group. And you know how it is.
Yeah, you throwing
You
that in.
send something, all of a
You
sudden.
open it up.
So then, like, I was like, I don't want to see this.
Guys, we have a group chat that's like unhinged.
It is. It's out of
And
control.
It's out of control.
It is. But there was these two people, it was a trainer and somebody he was coaching, right? And it was obviously supposed to be a funny thing.
Yeah.
And he like tapped him on the shoulder and was like, "Hey, look at that." And there was a person walking in booty shorts.
Okay.
Lady walking in booty shorts.
Okay.
Like a lot of sachet.
Yeah.
And
Lot of
she
hip.
had a lot of glute going on.
Okay.
Very nice.
Okay, very
Right?
nice.
And then it pans up. It wasn't a woman. It wasn't a
I like
woman.
that.
Not at all. And then they, the person turned around and they looked at him and they were like, oh.
Did they have long hair? Did it make?
No.
Oh, so they were literally just looking down.
Just looking down.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And honestly, from that angle,
You
from
thought
that thing, I was thinking the same thing, but I knew something was up.
Yeah.
And then when they panned up and it was a dude,
That's
I was
funny.
like, ay, Dios mío. So
That's funny. Some guys out there be getting them squats. They're getting them tushies.
Yep. So, I mean, runners too, if you run, in an efficient way, you're going to go your glutes as well, right? So,
Or if you're a rugby player, that's where it's at now. Rugby players.
why is it where rugby players?
Have you don't get this content. For some reason, the algorithm has fed me nothing but like rugby players, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad about it.
I feel like a rugby player would be outside of your wheelhouse.
In terms of what?
Like they're too rough and tumble. They're too manly. You want somebody who's more sensitive, and you want somebody who's like wants to travel and who
a rugby player can travel.
You want like a romantic.
I want a
You want a romantic comedy. And a rugby player ain't giving you romantic comedy.
I do want a romantic comedy, but I mean, it could be a rugby player, and he also rescues kittens on the side.
There's no rugby player.
If you are a rugby player who does the rescue thing and you like to travel, hit me up. Your girl's single. Ready to mingle. Not.
I can guarantee there's no.
Are there any rugby players
there's
listening
not
to this
gonna be an
podcast?
answer to that one. If it is, it's a female rugby player.
No, I'm sorry, ladies. I don't swing that way.
Yeah. So
My bad.
anyway, so guys, if you see me wearing tight pants and I'm doing this video, it's just clickbait. Don't click on it. Don't click on it. Actually, the other day it was cold. You missed it. Or you were there? You might have been there. No, you weren't there. I had on tights. I never wear tights.
You don't wear tights because somebody made you. I think some of the members made you feel uncomfortable about wearing tights.
So I wore tights.
James gets commentary on his glutes.
Super cold.
You do get a lot of commentary.
It was super cold. So I was like, oh, let me put these leggings on. Let me throw my normal stuff on. But usually if I do wear it, I have like a longer shirt that kind of covers it, right?
Sure.
I got my gym pump. My pump cover.
Your pump cover, sure.
And so we got out of the vehicle and I had my vest on. And so it's shorter. And whoever the person was walked behind me and said, oh, you've got tights on. Just like really loud and like really proud.
Really bringing attention to it.
I was like immediately like covering my shame. I was like, oh.
Ladies, be better. Don't make men feel bad about it.
My eyes are up here, please. My eyes are up here. So I probably won't be wearing those tights anymore.
Oh.
So, yeah. It's my shame. My shame. And now all the ladies that have seen me in my tights are like, there's a collective sigh of relief. Thank God. So,
I doubt it's a collective sigh of relief.
No, for sure. And my wife's saying right now, she's like, them chicks better watch themselves because Leah don't play. She'll shank somebody in a heartbeat.
I believe it.
So she'll take my tights and choke you with them.
That's how you die.
That's how you die. That's right. So, all right. Is that it?
I think that's it. We've been chatting for a while. Guys, y'all got the point, right? Y'all got it. Plateaus. Make a plan. Stick to the plan. Take the easy days. What button are you pushing? Why are you doing the womp?
You'll have to listen. You're just rambling. That's why.
Y'all get it.
You're still rambling.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just filling in the blank.
You are.
I'm just filling the void.
I'm going to have to cut all this out in the editing room. So, all right, guys, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. As always, we thank you for all the support and everything you've been doing to make Running with James happen. We've got some awesome stuff coming up.
Yes.
If you are going to be a part of High Rocks Houston March,
Whoop, whoop.
15th and 16th.
15th, 16th.
Right. We are going to be doing a shakeout run on the 14th.
Friday.
At Discovery Green.
6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. Everyone is welcome, whether you're part of our crew or not. We'd love for you to come out and join us. And we'll hopefully have a big crew out there. Nice, easy, short run. Nothing too crazy. Get you ready for race day. March 1st, we're going to be doing a recovery clinic. Speaking of recovery,
yeah, we're going to have a recovery clinic. We are being collaborating on this event with Roll Recovery. Super excited to be sponsoring with them. We had the pleasure of meeting them at the running event, and really great company, awesome guys running it. And yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. We're going to be going over recovery methods, techniques, how to recover, foam rolling, all the fascia release,
percussion gun. So we'll also have some. You'll also be able to sign up for some free stretch and release, active recovery sessions, but they are very limited. So if you want to get that free session, you need to sign up right now
because you want to get those strong man hands on you.
And then the event itself, we'll make sure that everybody you'll definitely get some great stuff out of it. And we're going to do some giveaways.
We do have some giveaways.
So Roll will be providing some giveaways for us through their sponsorship. So you can go to our website to check more information out about that. You can also go through our app, the BC Fitness app, to sign up. And then you can also check out the Running with James YouTube page where we have shoe reviews, running techniques, training techniques, high rock stuff, all kinds of great stuff to fill your nights and your days. And if you have the ability to, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/runningwithjames. You can support the show, get extra content, and then help keep Lauren in the coffee that she so desperately needs.
Keep Lauren caffeinated, guys. Keep
it.
Lauren fed and caffeinated.
That's right. So that way she doesn't yawn all show long. Right?
They didn't have to know that.
Yeah, they knew.
I don't think they could hear it.
You're like, yeah,
sucking the microphone in every time.
Don't do that. All right, guys, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming in. Remember, if you can change your mind,
you can change your life.
Bye.
Bye.